Hello, I'm Andy McIlvain with Human Resource Executive Magazine, and with me is Barbara Corcoran, real estate businesswoman, author, and a judge on ABC's Shark Tank. Welcome, Barbara.
Thanks, Andy. Nice being here.
Well, Barbara, you said you were a little nervous when you delivered the keynote address at HRTech today.
Oh, you had to hit right on that spot,
I'm
did you?
sorry.
I
Tell me
really,
why.
I really must say I was nervous for a good 10 minutes or so, which is not like me. I'm always nervous before I get on, and then I get on that stage and I'm solid. But I was struggling for the first 10 minutes, and I think, what's my excuse? Let me come up with something good. I think I wanted to do a great job with this laser thing. And once I got there, I felt silly about it and thought I looked silly. And so my ego wasn't strong enough to handle it. I thought people were probably looking at me and they, well, she's a jerk. And so all that self-talk will bring you down. Of course, it's the worst part of all living is your own self-talk, not what the people were thinking. They were fine. It's just I wasn't fine.
So, you judge a lot of startups, am I right?
Yes, that's what I do for a living. And I invest in them, which is the really hard part.
But what would you say to a conference attendee who's talking to these startups? What should they look for? What sort of questions should they ask? Because they may be thinking about, well, maybe I should buy the products,
Oh,
but I don't want to get in trouble and lose my company's money.
well, I think caution is probably good because not every startup succeeds. Certainly on the businesses I invested in Shark Tank, I would say that 1 in 3 succeed. 2 out of 3 I lose my money, and that's a phenomenal record, by the way. It sounds dire, but it's not. But startups can go out of business, and you do have the responsibility for your company's dollar. But I think your best guide always is to judge the individual who's running it. If you have the opportunity to talk to the individual and size them up and ask yourself the question, do I trust them? I know that doesn't sound so sophisticated, but this is what I do on Shark Tank. Do I trust them? And when it happens and I'm not 100% sure, I picture this. I think, what if there was a war and I had to throw my baby into their arms and have them watch my baby for 5 years? When I come back, would they still be okay? And I go, no, they wouldn't be, and then I'm out, So I think you have to size up how much you trust the individual, and then you also have to ask yourself, is there enough demand for the product that is going to enable that young startup to succeed? You can have the greatest thing, but if you can't sell enough of it, you're still not going to succeed.
So, Barbara, when you're hiring, when you're looking to hire someone, what would you say are the 3 most important things you look for?
Number one, attitude, not experience. I used to be guided by a resume. I never look at the resume anymore for the last 20 years. I just sit down and have a chat with the individual. And then when that's all over, I'll look at the resume and ask a few questions. Because otherwise you have the equivalent of a cocktail conversation. Oh, I see you worked here. Oh, what was that? You're just confirming the resume, all right? I think once you can size up the individual and just think, is this somebody I'd like to hang out with? I know that sounds so non-important, but you really want people that you want to hang out with because it makes for easy teammanship if they fit your culture, fit your style, or whatever you're trying to accomplish. And then last, I would say wild-ass enthusiasm. Because you can take anyone who has the enthusiasm and optimism to learn something, and you could teach them anything. But if you have someone without that, you work so much harder to teach them anything, and they never really wind up being a star, in my experience. And believe me, I've tried.
How do you, when you say wild ass enthusiasm, how does that typically show up?
In actions. I mean, a lot of people talk a good game like, whoa, this is a great. I don't mean that. Wild enthusiasm through your actions. Like, let me get it. I can do it. Oh, I'll take care of it. I can do it. Almost like it's very easy to size that up with the service people in a store, in a restaurant. You always know when someone's great at that. And that's the pure enthusiasm that individual could do any job because they go into it with an openness that they're going to get it. And if they don't get it, they're going to learn it. And if they don't learn it, they're going to ask for help. But someone who's more guarded and stands more on ceremony as to how they want to look and how much they want to invest in the circumstance never gets that. They just can't bloom the way someone could who has it.
And once you find that great person or these great people, what do you do to keep them and keep them productive and get them to stick with you forever?
Well, there's a lot of tactics. that can be used that I use all the time. And tactics maybe is the wrong word because it sounds like it's manipulative. No, but it's you promote them frequently. You give them a lot more responsibility till they choke on it. You just throw it out there. You'll know when people can't handle it, and then you back off a little. You give them lots of bonuses, more than big raises, because people like to be rewarded for what they've done or accomplished with a particular task. You're marking it, and I'm like, great, you did a great job in there, here's a bonus. Versus, you've been a great employee this year, and here's a bonus. And you want to get people, you want to give them a raise before they ask for it. It's so degrading for anyone. No one's comfortable asking for a raise. No one is. I don't care how confident you are as an individual. It's walking into a situation where one guy's got the power and you don't. Okay, so if you could be raising people and pushing them forward long before they're thinking they have to ask you for it, they love you forever because it makes the job so much more pleasant, much easier.
I like that. Give them a raise before.
In fact, I'm going to give you a raise today.
Thanks, Barbara.
Yeah, $5.
So another thing that struck me when you were talking was you mentioned the importance of clarity when you're managing people. Can you talk a bit about that? Let's say you thought you hired a great person, but they're not working out as well as you thought.
Well, one place to start with someone like that is to say, what do you think your job is here? What do you understand it to be? Right away, you can clean it up. Because very often what you'll hear back has nothing to do with what you thought their job is. That's nothing more than a lack of communication. And I generally find whenever a task fails, whenever a department fails, whenever anything fails with an accomplishment or doesn't get accomplished in a business, it's almost always not a failure to try or to work hard. It's almost always a failure to communicate. That's always at the root of any times I've had a failure. When I dig in and get it, it's a failure to communicate more than attitude or work ethic. Okay, so when I say clarity, I think you have to really be on the same page with the employee as to what their job is and what's important to you. My belief always is the only good employee is someone who makes my job easier. Now that sounds a little arrogant or selfish, but it's really true. Talk to any boss in any situation his entire life. Who do they like? The employee who makes the job easier. And so if somebody's really high maintenance, needs a lot of attention, needs a lot of redirection all the time, it's exhausting. That's not the guy you promote. You always promote the people that seem to lift you up. And so I'm not ssure that was even an answer to your question, but I made that point anyway. Yeah.
That was a good answer.
Okay.
And, we're in the era of Me Too.
Yes, very much.
And, you're a woman entrepreneur. You sort of, you created a company almost basically from scratch. You've moved up. You've never been afraid to promote yourself. What advice would you give to women starting out today in an organization or maybe starting their business based on, not letting yourself be
taken advantage of?
Yes.
Well, I could tell you what I do because I've been taken advantage of my whole life, and it's part of the game. I'm not upset by it at all. I expect it. I've expected it my entire life. But the only thing that matters is not how the world or that individual is treating you or how you interact with that individual. The only thing that really matters is how you interact with yourself. And so what I do very often in a situation where I'm intimidated, and who isn't? You don't have to be a girl to be intimidated. A lot of men are intimidated. But when I'm in a situation where I think I might not be able to do, or I'm being outshone, or somebody is putting me down, or inferred putting me down, or lacks confidence, I used to, when I was younger, back off and think, well, I'm not going to make any waves. But now what I do, because I learned it when I was in my mid-20s, I stop and I think, what would a man do? And then I raise my hand and take credit, even if it's not totally to my credit. A man could climb half the mountain, get to the middle point, and pound his chest and say, I'm king of the mountain. That's how my brothers were when I played with them when they were kids. Women get to the top of the mountain, go twice the distance, get to the top of the mountain, set up house, make sure it looks good, everybody's fed, and then say, I might be the queen of the mountain. So I think you have to just step up and take credit and speak up when in doubt. And I think as young women and girls today still, I think you're often expected to be kinder or softer or sweeter to make an impression. And I think you just have to let that go if you're going to be in business, because you want to compete on equal footing with the men. The only way to do it, yeah.
And finally, Barbara, I'm sure you work with HR. in your
Yes, of
career.
course.
How do you define a really good HR person?
Someone who's caring. Number one, on the businesses that I invested on Shark Tank, I've also had the great fortune of having phenomenal people in HR. And I can tell you, they all have different styles. They have variant experience or no experience. I can tell you what they share in common is they really care about the people. You can't fake passion. You can't fake caring. And so if someone really cares about the people around them, they are a great HR person. You just can't fake that. And then the rest is like every other job. You have to work your ass off, like everything else. But HR is the most important part of a business in my mind, because it dictates who is in the company. And what is a company? Nothing more than a bunch of people. And so a lot of people always thought I made my fortune by being in the real estate business. I actually know very little about real estate. But I know a lot about people and how to get the good people, how to keep the good people, how to promote the good people. So as an expert HR person myself, knowing where my gold is, it's the person, that's where my eye should be. And you can't do that unless you really care. You just can't do it. You can't keep it up. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Barbara.
You are
Great meeting
welcome.
you.